Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS. I am your host, Artem, and of course, we have Lorena Creole with us tonight. How are you, Lorena?
I am doing great, doing amazing, and I'm so glad to be here with you and with our amazing viewers.
Yes, hello, everybody in the chat. Hello to Tom Jr. Jackson, who is our moderator tonight. Thank you so much, Tom, for
Hmm.
you do. We are all goof people. And Lorena, there is so much going on in entertainment. I can't even speak, Lorena. I can't even talk anymore. There's so much going on. I get so excited about the show. Lorena, we have been seeing some incredible programs coming up, and there was one in particular, Lorena,
Hmm.
that we'd heard about. We knew it was coming. I didn't know what to expect from it, and part of the reason why I didn't know what to expect from this program was because
Hmm.
of the movie that came out literally right before they kind of referenced a certain group of people in the movie, Lorena. And of course,
Hmm.
about Thor Love and Thunder. In Thor Love and Thunder, we did get sort of like a little tease of the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is by far, by for many people, probably their favorite group and maybe even their favorite films in the MCU, more or less. And I was kind of surprised when I saw how they kind of treated Thor, and I've lightened up a little bit, Lorena. Like I've lightened up just a little bit, but I was
Just a
like,
little bit.
yeah, just I was like, they're kind of mean to him because he's kind of looking at them like, "Hey, buddies," and they're like, they don't even see him, and I'm like, that's not Guardians. Guardians would be like, bring it in, right? Like they're that kind of, maybe not, but I knew, and you knew, we all had heard that there was going to be this amazing Christmas special for Guardians of the Galaxy. So, guys, if you have not watched it, guys, there's going to be spoilers. It's of course a Christmas special. And Lorena, I have to say that I was pleased as punch after I put up my Christmas tree and pulled out my rum nog that I could sit down and watch the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, which kind of feels like a mini movie, guys. I don't know of those of you out there who are familiar with the fact that it is available for everybody to see. But Lorena, I know it says it bridges the franchise upcoming and everything. Lorena,
Hmm.
this series, this special was incredible. It was so enjoyable. It was fun. It had all those things that you would expect from Guardians of the Galaxy, the great dialogue between the characters, certainly a lot of Christmas cheer. Lorena, did you get a chance to check out this Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special? And if so, what did you think of it?
Well, first of all, I wasn't quite sure what they were going to do with this when it was first announced. So it was kind of off my radar. And then, of course, at Epcot, they put in the Cosmic Rewind ride that replaced Ellen's Energy Adventure. So that's like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So I've kind of been like in that Guardians of the Galaxy mode for quite a while because I love riding. I love riding that attraction. It's so much 80s fun. So when this got released, I'm like, all right, well, let's see what they do with it. And literally from the beginning, I just laughed so hard. I mean, starting out with a Christmas song that has to be one of the most twisted things that I've heard. And you and your friends used to make up those crazy Christmas songs besides, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin Laid an Egg. I mean, you start making your own lyrics and stuff to it. So it was just an absolute blast because I didn't just watch it once. I watched it twice. And I'm actually going to watch it a third time because at Epcot, they have this thing called the cookie stroll. It's like you get 5 cookies and a little booklet and you stamp it, and then you redeem it for a cookie you can eat and an inedible prize. So last year, the inedible prize was some like boring flat cardboard, ornament. Well, this year, they gave us a Guardians of the Galaxy
Oh my
holiday
god! Oh my god!
special
Oh my
pin.
god! I don't know how to. Maybe I can remove myself and wait. Let me see if I can. Wait,
Oh,
hold
you
on.
just
Hold on.
click it in
I'm
the
gonna see.
corner.
Did I
It'll blow
just
me
see
up.
yours or mine?
Mine. Just like you go to the left upper left
Oh
and
yes,
just
I got
click
it
that. Yeah, there we go. See,
now.
check it out. Check it out. Check it out.
Oh my god, it's so amazing. That is so
So it's the
cool.
Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Oh
I was
my
not
god.
expecting this.
Oh my
So this
god.
was like a bonus. So if you had to ask how much I paid for the policy, 3, 6, 9, 12, maybe like $15, but I got like 6 cookies.
Oh my
I got 6 cookies in
gosh.
exchange. So yeah, I was
Oh
so
my
pleased. So yes, I am
god.
going to watch that special a third time because it is, if you just remember all of like those 80s movies that had Christmas themes and things that were in it, it's literally a callback to those. And dare I say a callback to the Charlie Brown Christmas special. I mean, pretty much all of it. This was so much fun. It didn't take itself super seriously. I mean, there was a serious moment in the end, but it was very much warranted. I didn't see it coming. I'm like, I don't know, but at the end, it was worth it. I was happy with how it came out, and I was just like, I think I'm gonna cry.
You know,
But I loved it. I loved it. I really did.
I have to absolutely agree with you, Lorraine. You make so many good points about it. It did feel as good as an 80s Christmas special. I'm not going to say it's the ultimate Christmas vacation, but it felt as good with a lot of this kind of soul satisfying humor and, kind of like, do you know where Christmas is feel to it. I need to find Christmas. We need to get something for someone. It was really very heartfelt when you think about it, and how things happened. And I think that it really did kind of get the idea of spreading Christmas cheer, regardless as to whether or not that is, let's say, something you celebrate. It honestly, I felt like it was open to anybody because you got people from different galaxies celebrating the occasion. And I really thought that was very clever, opening
Mm-hmm.
joy for everyone. And of course, some of the very interesting parts of it that they actually decorated for Christmas. There are some traditions that they did in the show, and it's
Mm-hmm.
45 minutes for Lorena. But I would have liked, honestly, if they could do this, they probably could have done a 2-hour special. And that would have been just as good. What do you think?
I agree. I really do. They could have, you know, dragged it out. They could have gone back to earth with Kevin Bacon.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I could see them doing it definitely for we'll say like 90 minutes. That's a good length, but I can totally see that. One of the crux of this, and it's a good point you brought up about it. There's people from different galaxies. At the nutshell, at the crux and the heart of this story is your friend is missing the experience of a holiday that he feels isolated from. And want to his friends want to give him this gift. They want to do this for their friend, and they will do everything to get it. It's kind of like if you've seen National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, all right, when Clark just like goes off the freaking rails and he says, you know what I want for Christmas? I want my boss, Mr. Shirley, brought here from his posh house and wrapped up in a bow and brought to my doorstep. And guess who went to go get his boss and bring him in wrapped up in a bow? His cousin Eddie. All he cared about was that was, Clark. That was his, I guess his cousin-in-law, not really his brother, but he was just like, that's all I care about. And you know, that's what Mantis, that's what Drex, that's what they care about. They just want to do something for Peter, for this holiday that he loves so much, and he feels so sad that he hasn't really been able to celebrate it. And you can just see it on Peter's face. I mean, I'm telling you, they must have went to the Walmart in Van Nuys, and bought every single Christmas decoration.
Yeah.
Because when you look, it literally looks like you walked into, the display at Walmart in the back where they have like every single inflatable and light and Christmas tchotchke and a snow machine
20
and
trees and
20 trees,
billion
different colors,
yes.
candy canes. It's so over the top fun. It's like you feel like a kid. So just like the way that Chris Pratt has this look on his face is exactly how I felt watching it. Because just like, wow, my friends thought that much of me to do that. And in how many other sci-fi TV shows have we seen where someone misses a holiday from their planet and their friends are like, okay, so how can we recreate this? How can we bring this to life? Because in the end, it's all about your friends and things and what you wouldn't do to to bring them a piece of that holiday that they miss. Even kidnapping Kevin Bacon and brainwashing him a little bit and committing a little breaking in a little B&E between friends.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly clever because they listened to him, and that's something that I think is so important. And kind of like why we're even on YouTube is because people do have things they want to express and emotions, and they got to get these emotions out. And listening to everybody, especially during the holiday season, Lorena, when people do tend to feel alone sometimes, or they
Mhm.
may not have anyone else, it's so important to extend that courtesy and just listen to their thoughts and concerns. They definitely listened, and I think that they learned a lot too. I have to say, I got to give Kevin Bacon a lot of credit for also bringing a lot of Christmas cheer to this. At some point, when things didn't look like it was going too well, there's certain sense of responsibility of, you see somebody and, maybe he had an emotional need, right? There's an emotional need in this case of
Mhm.
having that Christmas cheer spread around. And, I think that that's important too. Sometimes just even being there is important sometimes, being able to share special moments. And we certainly did see that here, but also a lot of slapstick kind of comedy, if you will. Like that was
Oh my God! When they're running through the neighborhood and Kevin Bacon is trying to get away from them, and you just you can tell they're aliens. And then they're playing "I Want an Alien for Christmas," chasing each other. Oh my gosh! But you're so right. It's like that crazy slapstick comedy that they put in there, which is also hallmark of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise. Like I had no clue about it, and my niece, who is not into Marvel by any means necessary whatsoever. Okay, she could care less. She's like, no, that's nerdy stuff like you like, Auntie. I don't really like that. But I let her see Guardians of the Galaxy. She laughed so hard.
aw.
They were like, to her, they were like live versions of cartoons that she likes that she likes to watch. So she thinks it's funny. She thinks it's funny that Groot can only say one word and that Rocket is Trash Panda. So it's true to its origin story, which is what I like. Even and John Jr. Jackson pointed out, like when they were on Hollywood Boulevard, which I've
Yeah.
been to many times when I lived in LA, and she sees a guy dressed up like Captain America. She's like, Stevie! She's like jumping on him.
I loved it. I mean, it seemed like they fit right in, Lorena, on Hollywood Boulevard. It was like if you were going to find anyone that looks like them, that's the place where you would find them. And it was kind of ironic in a way that they seemed to fit right in. It was really well thought out, well done. It was just a joy to watch. I haven't had this much fun, and I think it's really funny. I was kind of deterred from watching it, as I said, because of that other movie. But this is, I have a
Mhm.
feeling that was just a one-off or whatever it was, and just I'm gonna even come. I'm gonna remove that memory from my brain
Yeah.
and have this in my mind because it was so enjoyable. And this is kind of what we wanted. all along. And so, of course, the headline talks about how it bridges the franchise to upcoming Volume 3. And I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but they talk about it. It's originally developed for ABC in the wake of the release of 2017. Is this correct? The one-off concept he originally developed. So he wanted to do it before. And the timing is everything, I guess. The special arrives at a quintessential moment as Gunn is wrapping up his Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which will air in May.
Yes.
And he says, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, and that date is not a coincidence. That date will actually mark that Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind will have been open for a year. So that's the tie.
Absolutely, Lorena. Thank you for telling us that. There's a lot of elements that are tying this all together from the parks, from the movies, the special here. He talks about how he used the holiday special as an opportunity to introduce some elements into Guardians of the Galaxy. So I didn't have to explain them in the beginning of Volume 3. So it was a Trojan horse. So that means that there are some things that are in there, which I love stuff like this. I don't have to talk about where they got Nowhere from, or Cosmo being from nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you will see what Nebula's role is in the group now. She's a leader to some degree. We've seen all these changes since we've seen them last. And of course, well, it's in the article, that's not really a spoiler, guys, but there's something about Peter and, Mantis. So I'm not going to get into that, but let's just say they find out something really important.
Yes, and it's very heartfelt the way that it's done. It's not a let's put it this way. It's not a, oh, FYI, this happened. It wasn't treated that way. And I think that's why when it was first introduced, let's say in the beginning of the show, it's kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this, but then they were like, okay, so we have to do this for Peter. Okay, so I was like, cool, I'm on board. Let's do this. So by the end, when they have that reveal that happens, it was something that you saw it coming, but not really. But it was a great payoff, a great example of setting up expectations and getting the payoff. So
absolutely. And it's not, as you mentioned, Lorraine, it's not something that you just kind of like blurt out matter of factly. It was an important discovery for both of them. And, I think when you treat something with care, because it is important, we get to see those relationships and the interactions between people that are realistic. That's how these things happen. They're not sort of like, put in a haphazard fashion. It was something that you had to build up to, why there was importance for her to do what she was doing. And, I think they took the time to do that so carefully. And, I think they set a good example of how you might, if you had to tell somebody something pretty important, you have to pick the right moment and the right time. And I felt that this was perfectly timed. And certainly, an additional, although maybe we knew, but certainly an additional wonderful part of the story there. And, they even had Kira Sedgwick like on the phone calling. How do
you get reception out here? A very logical question that we would think too,
Absolutely. So I give it, definitely, for me, it's a 10 out of 10. I feel like this is just what the doctor ordered. We needed some kind of release of the tension of the holidays. This is really a fun foray into Christmas spirit and cheer. I feel like it's it's going to turn into a classic where it's like, oh, did you ever watch the Guardians Christmas special? And we certainly also learned some other things. They talked about Christmas in the past and different things that happened. And they said, well, let's bring it back, this notion of keeping traditions and bringing those to others. So I think that, this is, while it is true, there is more than one reason for why it's there. He certainly is important enough to do that. And Lorena, I agree with you in the decorations. When I saw what they did, even I was like, wow, this, you could have that on a huge display in one of those fancy shops, because they went all out with the beauty.
They went literally, when I tell you they spared no expense, I mean, we're talking they had to throw the nuclear backup because that's how many lights. And it's not like, how can I put this? Um, it's a buildup. That's all I'm going to say about
Yes.
how they did it. They did not half-ass this. It's like, remember how for Christmas you walk into your favorite department store
Yes.
at the and it just looks like everything is so over the top. It's not halfway. And then there's always that one house in the neighborhood that does not do Christmas decorations halfway. You could see it from space. And it's just like, oh, and they capture that whole sentiment in this. And I just thought that was brilliant because that's also something that not only helps you connect to it if you celebrate Christmas, but also connects the sentiment of his friends went way above and beyond to doubly make sure that it's Christmas for him, for
I
Peter.
absolutely agree. Then it really was a wonderful experience. It has great rewatch value. It makes you want to watch it again and again. So, guys, this is a winner for me, and I'm sure Lorena feels the same way. And I hope everybody out there, whether you celebrate Christmas or not, still watch it. It's so entertaining and fun
So
to watch. I'm so glad we got this, Lorena. It feels like such a gift. This is the type of entertainment things where you can see the talents of
mhm.
a lot of the people who are in charge of doing this type of work. They really do have the ability to charm us and make kind of, dreams come true in a sense
Right.
when you see something like this. So it's absolutely enjoyable, guys. Please do check out the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special now.
Mhm.
I do want to also talk about the next topic, which is equally intriguing. And I have a feeling that there are actually many of you here right now who are probably very familiar with what I'm about to talk about. And it has to do with this movie that is it's on Amazon, right?
Yes, yes, it was on Amazon.
That's on
Mhm.
Amazon, that I saw advertised, maybe it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, called Good Night, Oppy. And I've got to tell you, everybody, and I was speaking to Lorena about this. So of course, as you can imagine, when I saw the words Good Night, Oppy, I didn't know what this meant because I
Mhm.
have to like get 30 minutes into the film to understand why it's called that. But then I realized, I said, oh, wait a minute. The name of the rover's Opportunity and Good Night. Okay, got it. So,
Mhm.
but what I can say, Lorena, is that people are comparing it. They're saying like it's a cross between Wally and the Martian. And I've got to tell you something, Lorena, it did have a somewhat interesting uh, AI quality to it. And I'm sorry that this does not have the whole picture. I'm trying to pull up some more pictures. But in regards to Goodnight Oppy, it's a movie about NASA, guys. This is about the rovers that
Mhm.
has launched, just in case you were wondering. And honestly, I don't know about you. I know Lorena and I love space exploration. We love NASA. We love all this cool, science related engineering, space exploration. Guys, this film is about NASA's rovers and the teams that worked on the rovers, that developed them, that designed them, that followed them, that communicated with them, that, sent out messages and telling them where to go on the surface of Mars. This is the coolest thing ever. I have to say, I watched it 3 times, and every time I watched it, I found something different in it that I wasn't expecting or was unaware would be there. It really was something that grabbed my imagination, Lorena, even though I
Mhm.
knew the outcome. And this is really funny because sometimes you know the outcome of something, but it can still grab you. I'm going to put up a better picture of this rover, Lorena. But I have to tell you, I knew what was going to happen. We all shared this story like years ago when it happened, and the
Mhm.
first two ended up crashing because they didn't convert, what was it, metric meters. Metric
Oh, that one
meters
I just it, let's put it this way. That is now the textbook example given to software engineers. When you
Yes.
write code, make sure you know what it is that you're doing. Are you doing the right task? Because the first two crashed because, again, they had English units calculated, but the piece of software that took those numbers
Was in
thought
there.
that it was metric. So basically, you had something multiplied by, like, I guess, the factor of 5,
Mm-hmm.
which is
And
why it what?
we've all been forced to do conversions in our day in school. Like it's like, oh, another conversion.
Yes. And it cracks me up because it's just like all of those calculations, especially in engineering, you're usually always flipping doing it in metric unless something happens where you have to do it in English units. You're usually by default you're doing it in metric units. And oh, for folks for folks who don't know, and I don't think I've actually said this on your channel, I was actually a research assistant at the NASA Kennedy Space Center. So we always were hearing about, about the rover. Unfortunately, when the first ones crashed, we were kind of like, okay, don't do that. That, how much money just got lost, right? I mean, you do realize that
$1 million right there.
$1 million, couple million that just got messed up. But with this rover, it's just like, if there was so much hope for it to be launched. I mean, I remember people like were watching it. We were watching it, in the lunchroom when I worked at Stark Industries, and we were watching what was going on. And he was like a little, like a little buddy. If you did anything with robotics, which I did, you were constantly like, what is this little guy doing? I hope he's working right. I hope he's working right. And then getting updates and pictures, like, yeah, there's new pictures. Rover's got new pictures for us. It was just so exciting. And this brings back
I'm sorry.
memories.
Let me bring it back. I clipped off of it too quickly there. Yes, Lorena, you were saying.
That brings back memories. Those are all clean suits that you have to put on because you're working in an environment that's actually cleaner than an operating room with respects to dust that's at parts per million. So you have to put on that bunny suit, which covers like everything. If you're a woman, you can't have on any makeup. That almost killed me. And you have to have these boots on. You have to get like an air shower that just like blows everything. And then you walk on those sticky mats, and then you get to the area that's like this. So
one of the reasons why I kind of like this picture in particular is because so I do live in New York, and I've spent a lot of time at the American Museum of Natural History, and they have a huge, they have the Hayden Planetarium. Like there's a ton of, lunar and space vehicles near here. But when you see it on television and you kind of can see that how big this rover is, like it's huge. And then when you see it, you finally stand next to this thing, it's enormous.
yes.
I love that you kind of get a chance to see the orders of magnitude, because when you just see the rover on Mars, it looks so small, Lorena, and we know it's not small. This is a highly technical piece of machinery that
Yes.
is in itself artificial intelligence. And, I have to marvel at it, mainly because of just the effort and the work put into it. Eventually, the intention is to benefit us all. Hopefully one day when people will be able to go on the surface, and I'm sorry, this picture's not sharing, right? Let me stop sharing. When eventually we hope to be able to take advantage of some of the gains that we've made and what we've learned from these types of adventures. But Lorena, you and I both know this because I know you followed it the whole time that the rovers were operational. Let's say when we say operational, we mean that they transmit information back to Earth. That's what we mean.
Yes, that they're and receiving at the same time.
Exactly. And once they go offline, which is essentially what happens with Oppy and Lorena. It was unexpected. They didn't know how long it was going to be functioning. And then it
No,
being this 15-year gift, Lorena, this is like, this never happens.
no. This was supposed to work like what for maybe about 6 months because you have to understand how harsh the Martian environment is with storms, the terrain in itself, and with the atmosphere. They really, it was like optimistic. They probably ran the models and said, okay, if we're lucky if we get 6 months out of this. It's probably what they said. Like, okay, well, let's give it the absolute best chance possible. Learn what happened when, we yeah, I'm gonna bring that up. You guys calculated it wrong, used the wrong metrics, and boom, blew up in the atmosphere. They probably did. They probably, I don't want to say, I'll say over engineer, but in a good way. Make sure, give it this kind of threshold so in case this happens, there's something to make up for it. And between the hardware and the software, because Oppy and also Spirit,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, that kind of like eventually she was having problems and she kind of had to shut her down. That was the sister rover. That
Mm-hmm.
was launched the same time as Opportunity. It's the software also helps the rover, and the rover eventually, getting the information from roaming around the planet, can actually make decisions. And you actually saw that later on in the film, where first of all, at 15-year dash to the crater, as I said, what the heck? We're just going to go and do it. We didn't expect for Oppy to be here this long, for like 5 years at the time. And then they said, okay, it'll probably take her like 10 years to get there or something. So we'll just go for broke and do it anyway. And sure enough, she goes on a journey over there, and you see her make decisions where even the engineers in the control room, which is what you see, they're in the control room and they're talking to it. It's just like, we don't know really what to do here. But Oppy would make the calculations and decide she wanted to go. She actually did know better because she had the hard data and could process it through the software. So it's incredible. And also you have to understand, in this internet age, we're used to instantaneous types of things. When you're dealing with satellite communications, when you send an instruction, it does not work right away. It can take half an hour. It can take an hour. That's just to send the message. You don't know how long it's going to take to get an acknowledgement back. So kind of keep that in mind as well. It's amazing that they were able to keep up that kind of communication for over 15 years.
Yeah, it's kind of
Insane.
like, I'm sorry, but speaking to my 85-year-old mother sometimes, and I'll ask her a question and I'm like, Mom, Mom.
You know what? I gotta laugh because I had to do work with robots, right? And sending, code and instructions, and just like, I sent it. Why are you looking at me like I'm stupid? I know I said, then all of a sudden it'll start moving and doing what it's, oh my God, seriously? And then it'll do something. I'm like, no, 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 stop, 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 stop. Doesn't stop right away. It keeps screwing up until it's finally like, okay, I'll stop now. But it's the weirdest. Eventually you start to figure it out, but it's just the weirdest thing. And sometimes you feel like, you didn't hear me, did you? Okay, wait, no, you did hear me. Okay, you heard me. All right. All right.
You make so many good points, Lorena, and so much was invested in this. This is an hour and 45-minute feature-length film, guys, and
Yes.
was invested in this. They talked about how many years they devoted to the mission, and I was kind of curious, because we know that these engineers, these scientists and engineers spent, in some cases 5 or 6 years, building and crafting,
Mhm.
these rovers. Do you think that there's a misconception of how long the development and planning stages really are when it comes to highly technical space vehicles like these?
That is an excellent question. For how long it takes, I don't think that it's publicized, the timeline that it takes to get these types of things done. I don't know why they don't talk about that. I think the majority of what you hear is how much it costs,
Hmm.
but no one sees the amount of planning you have to do, strategizing you have to do, material sourcing that you have to do, engineering proof of concepts that you have to do. Because I guarantee you, Opportunity and Spirit had probably 3 or 4 prototypes that were functional before they built the final thing. It Anything that has to do with space or exploration or engineering in general, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of precision. Engineering is a very precise task. It either works or it doesn't, and it takes a long planning horizon to do things like this. Even if you go back, look at the oranges of the space program and how long it took just for us to get started with Mercury, and then the Gemini program, and then finally, the Apollo program. It takes a long time, but it's the things that we learn and the technology that we learn and the payoffs that gives as well. I really wish that they would show just again how much work goes into putting things like this together. There now there's some private companies that do it better. I will say that. I'll say that.
Hmm.
No endorsement, but I love SpaceX.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love it too.
SpaceX.
I think it's great.
They took over because when NASA shut down, the shuttle program, that like broke my heart, because that was something that I got to go to almost every other day for about 2 years.
Wow.
Met astronauts, got to do all this stuff, got to see things up front. Yes, even, the $1 billion space toilet. I even got to see that, but to see just how much these men and women do, and not only engineers, but technicians
Hmm.
who have all this knowledge, and just how much of a group effort that it is. So I'm very glad this came out, especially for these men and women who were involved with this project. You get to hear their stories and just how invested they were in this mission. It's very uplifting. It wasn't what I expect. I will say yes, it's like Wally. And I think that was on purpose. And I think that's why a lot of people found the movie Wally to be so endearing. It looked like a little rover.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we're talking about Wally, which was an incredibly popular movie, and the article that where they talk a little bit more about Goodnight Oppy does compare it to that, and how it really is a remarkable film. But one thing that I wanted to say, Lorena, about this was the fact that the connection and the attachment that these
Hmm.
scientists, and not just the scientists but the world, had to these two rovers. I really haven't seen that before, Lorena, and I think it's because it was for so long. I think one of the persons in the chat said it was only supposed to be for 90 souls, which would be 90 days, right? And
Hmm.
for it to end up to be 15 years, that's the age of like the average household pet. Even, this particular set of rovers really
Hmm.
changed our relationship with let's say communications long distance in another planet in our solar system. We really haven't been able to have anything like that, where we can go ahead and send messages to something and it comes back like that. The idea of it's really kind of mind shattering, but it does feel like it's almost a personal communication. I mean, I know it isn't, but it does feel somewhat more tangible. Lorena, why are we making these attachments to this incredible rover? What do you think about this rover was so special that we all kind of embraced it, and it kind of felt like a living entity to us, and maybe not so artificial of an artificial intelligence being?
You know, um, I think it's because we're fascinated with the journey. It's kind of like stories that I would hear about like the first mission to the moon. It's like it captivated the entire world, and they kind of people really identified. Granted, that was that was a manned shuttle. With this, I don't know. It's just it was a very I think I would say it was a very hopeful story because it wasn't it's like the underdog. It wasn't expected to survive as long as it did. And it was going somewhere and it was someplace that we couldn't go. So we're just like, what did Oppy see today? What images, did she see today? And where is she today? I mean, the jokes about where's the Mars rover, today. But I think just that hopeful spirit of being somewhere where we cannot go and just showing us all these, amazing sights. I mean, rock samples. Like, hey, she found a rock today. I mean, it was nuts. People like a rover found, a rock. Granted, us engineer were nerds. We're like, no, a Mars rock. We've seen a moon rock, whatever. We already know what that looks like. But something from Mars, we were just fascinated by. So I think people just liked that hope, that humanity could create something like this. And it's doing a simple thing, just out looking at Mars, sending back pictures and letting us see where, we couldn't before until now. So
Absolutely. And I do want to welcome Bruce Lum to the channel as a member of the BURNETTWORK. Welcome, Bruce Lum. We are happy to have you here as part of the BURNETTWORK and the PGS. One other thing I wanted to mention was the fact that while this entire, the rover project, or however you want to describe it, was in development, one of the scientists went on to on a late night show with Stephen Colbert. And Stephen Colbert, he can be pretty funny sometimes, but the scientist, he went on to the show, and I can't show you the clip. I actually want to show you the clip. It was featured in the film Lorena, where the scientist, he kind of goes, one of the engineers goes on to the show, and he starts to talk to Stephen Colbert about this. And Stephen Colbert goes, how many rovers did you say you sent down to Mars? And the scientist is like, it's 2. And he's like, 2? You sent 2 down there? Do you know what's gonna happen? And so like he had this graphic of like the rovers meeting one another and planning and like trying to plan it. And it was like it was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. But even Stephen Colbert's imagination was stirred by, the idea that these 2 highly technical artificial intelligence rovers were there, because these aren't just ordinary rovers. So,
no.
I think that it was very interesting that he felt the need to kind of joke around about it. But even I started thinking about that, and I said, wouldn't it be great, like, if they could combine the 2 together and make a larger rover, or like, could they even, like, even in my mind,
are they gonna turn into Voltron? I'm sorry.
Well, something like some other creature, they can combine their technology together, and maybe they couldn't survive individually, but together they can survive, and maybe they can rewire each other. I don't know, but it seems like a cool idea. And I'm not sure why, but now he's implanted this idea in my brain, Lorena. I'm even still thinking about these rovers, even though we already know from the name of the movie that eventually they shut down. But honestly, Lorena, this was a fantastic film. I could see this being shown in sort of, I have there's a research center near me where they show IMAX films, and it'll be something like the ocean, or, space. And I could see them showing this. Children will be watching this movie, and it's going to inspire a lot of kids to go into engineering, to go into science, certainly into space exploration. I have to commend them on doing such a beautiful job with this. And also the idea of, when they first launched them, they had to reboot it. Do you remember? Like, they had to reboot in mid-launch or part of the latter stages of the launch where they were just about to land or something. And they're like, we're going to reboot. And I'm like, you can't do that. It's already been, like, you've already sent it on its way. Now you're going to reboot it, like, while it's in the middle of space. I don't know about this. And it was all these technical challenges that are exciting and fun to watch for our aesthetic, let's say. Maybe not for everybody, but for those of us who love this type of stuff, I think it really was a magical way of showing what they could show, considering that it was 15 years. And
Yes.
I'm so glad that they told this story about these rovers. And I'm so glad that it's available on Amazon for those of you who have Prime. So I would recommend Good Night Oppy to anybody who enjoys the rovers, who wants to see them again and get a sense of them, and sort of that excitement that we had during that 15 years, Lorena, of just such
Yes.
wonderful space exploration and Mars
Mm,
exploration.
absolutely. I know for me watching this brought back some really great memories of working at NASA. Like I've been granted this was JPL, but hey, Kennedy has to launch some of your stuff for you. So even though it's JPL, it's still part of NASA, but I've been in those launch rooms. I've been there, when they've launched the shuttles, like out at Kennedy Space Center. So I've been like in that firing room where I could see that. And it's just to see how majestic it is. So this is a really great movie to watch, especially because I'm such a big advocate for STEM, especially for young kids. Like my nephew, he loves all things space. He will lose his darn mind when he sees this, and it is, just that, hey, space is for you. And we kind of have this saying in engineering: scientists discover what is, engineers create what has never been.
Nice.
And this is a prime example of creating what has never been.
Now, and I really love that saying. I have a friend who's an engineer, and they always tell me that they find solutions to problems. And,
Hmm.
but he applies it to everything. So it'd be like, oh, this is broken. Here's your solution. Done. Like,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
love that as well. Certainly the type of people we want creating, the futures of space exploration for all of us,
Hmm.
and definitely making things better in the future. I got to give them a congratulations to whoever thought about making the film. Good Night Oppy is a good watch for everybody.
Yes. Yes,
So
it is.
I could talk about this forever, Lorena. We could talk about this all night. Um, but before we go, because we're actually coming near the end of the show, I can't believe it. There is one more thing I do want to mention, and of course, that has to do with Irene Cara. Everybody,
And that
yeah,
was sad.
yeah.
That was so sad. I thought it was a joke. Because there's so many hoaxes that come over Twitter, so you don't know if it's real or not. But turns out that it was real, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. She's so young. I remember first seeing her in the Fame movie when I finally got around to actually watching it.
Hmm.
Her singing the Fame theme song. I mean, just uh an iconic piece of pop culture when it comes to music.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people try to capture what she managed to do. She was a fantastic singer, a wonderful actress. I can't seem to get the headline in there, but yeah, she was remarkable. Irene Cara, uh, I just, she was such a fantastic singer. And,
Mhm.
this is at an era when music and movies were connected. And whenever there was a great film coming out, there would be this
Mhm.
wonderful soundtrack written by, incredible writers. And, Irene Cara was one of these actresses and singers who would sing these big hits. Like What a Feeling was the one, right? Lorena from Flashdance, right? And that
Mhm.
was an enormously popular film in the 80s. Um,
Yes.
she's kind of singing the main theme song, I guess, to it. a very, very liberating song. And her years on, doing Fame and getting known for this movie where she plays a young woman who wants to make it in entertainment. That incredibly well-known story of someone going to New York or Los Angeles or wherever to make it
Mm-hmm.
big in entertainment. And she had one of the most important roles in the film, I thought, because her character ends up succumbing to the pressures of those around her, even though she was incredibly talented. She was
Mm-hmm.
incredibly talented singer and performer in the movie, and yet even she succumbed to pretty much being taken advantage of by, let's say, the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up having, it's not really a spoiler from a film that's over 40 years old, but
Yeah.
she ends up, essentially making a skin flick or something like that, or posing to it or whatever it was, which was not what she wanted to do. Let's just say that she ends up going into entertainment, but not in the area of entertainment she wants, and she's not happy in it. And she plays the role so well, Lorena. It just breaks your heart when you see her in that role where she's just
Mm-hmm.
there. The guy's like, take your clothes off, and she just does it, and she doesn't want to. And we know it doesn't end there. Like, that's not the end of it. They're making this
Right.
movie. And but it says here, Irene Cara, remembered by colleagues, friends, and fans. There she is there, guys. And it says she was considered a trailblazer in her career, best known for her work in Fame and Flashdance. She was a veteran of Broadway, TV, music, and film, and an inspiration to generations who saw a bit of themselves in her performances and aspired to greater things. Some people are saying, and I'm sorry about the Irene Cara
Oh,
sang
no worries.
song. Born in the Bronx, she reached for the stars and delivered a soundtrack for the ages. She will truly be missed. And there she is
Mm-hmm.
when she was a little bit younger. That is really young to pass away here. It breaks my heart to hear Irene Cara was one of the first women I saw singing, dancing, and acting in color, not black and white, who looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her in Fame changed my life. Number one of the first 45s I remember owning was this beautiful song, Anyone Can See. It's still one of my favorites. Truly touching things here. On behalf of every 80s teenager who donned their leotard and leg warmers, danced to Fame in front of the mirror, and dreamed of one day enrolling at the High School of Performing Arts, right? Because every
Uh,
dancer or performer after seeing Fame. Thank you, Irene Cara. May you rest in peace. Um, and There's another one. John Leguizamo says, she was one of the reasons I'm here today. She made me believe if I were Latin, you could make it. She fueled my community. She will be missed. Rest in power, he says. There she is with one of her awards.
mm-hmm. Oh, Debbie Allen. Oh my gosh. I know this must just break her. Oh.
Absolutely. I'm sure, she just, I don't even know what to say. Here she is saying, uh, she was such a gifted and beautiful genius. Her talent in music will live forever. Of course, remember her name. Absolutely. We can't ever forget her. And here it says, it was the ultimate New York City theme song in 1980, the year I graduated from high school. It captured determination, even for those with the greatest odds stacked against them.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Payne, who made that comment. And something, Lorena, I have to say, the thing that I most related to in Fame, obviously it was an incredibly talented cast. The cast was incredibly talented, but it was just how bare bones they were. They weren't kind
Mm-hmm.
of like dolled up or changed in any way. These were real people, and I thought that was very interesting because I don't know whether we necessarily have that type of realism in movies and TV anymore. She felt incredibly authentic. She wasn't altered in any way, right, Lorena?
No, no, what you saw was what you got with her. And that's what made her character so relatable. She just seemed like she was just someone, next door, that she knew. She, of course, she had glamour, but she wasn't like super glammed, up. It was very real. And I think that's why her character appealed to so many people for so long.
Absolutely. And it was kind of the more modern versions of, let's say, the High School Musical, the first reiteration of the modern era of High School Musical, the first iteration of
Yeah.
the fantasy of seeing people kind of dancing in the hallways, which they did.
Hmm.
Those performers actually do take a lot of performance classes during the course of a day. Maybe they take 5 or 6, and they've been dancing for 8 and 9 hours a day. It's a lot
Hmm.
of work, a lot of performing work that they're putting in. But certainly, it may not necessarily be exactly like what we see in the film, but we do realize that it's a lot of arduous work. And of course, Debbie Allen talks about the sweat and the work that you have to do in the TV show. Also, kind of reiterated that. Now in
Hmm.
Flashdance, I don't believe she was in the film. I think she sang the lead song. But Lorena, what's interesting about Flashdance, of course, it starred Jennifer Beals, and I love Jennifer Beals. I think she's wonderful. But there was a different lady who did the dancing in that, along
Hmm.
with a bunch of other very famous dancers who did that. And of course, in that story, it was kind of like an underdog situation where it's a young woman who is not a classically trained dancer, but she wants to apply to a very prestigious school. And so once again, it's surrounded by the arts and kind of the notion of art. If you get into this school, it means you're going to make it. That you
Hmm.
have to get into this school. I've got to get into this school, because if I don't get into this school, my career, I may not be able to go in the direction I want to go with my career. And so I think that
Right.
that's also very good in regards to promoting the arts as well. Certainly we're here because we enjoy entertainment, and
Hmm.
that, I think, it speaks for itself. But these performances that we've gotten her from her, and from so many of these performers who would do a show like that or a movie like that, where you're a little bit more exposed, because it was a bit raw. Like Fame and Flashdance, those were raw movies. They weren't sort of sugar coated
No.
movies, right, Lorena? They were not Disney version style. Um, you know, I want to be an entertainment thing. It was an adult, story for adults.
Mhm, absolutely. It's just like for now, it's like, high school, I'll say High School Musical, I'll use Glee, where everyone's happy, everyone's like, swagged out, and rich, and they're dancing, and singing and smiling, and everything is great. It's like Fame, it's like, yeah, I'm dancing in the street, there's graffiti everywhere, I have to take the subway, you've got all kinds of people on the subway, some you do not want to make eye contact with
Yes.
whatsoever, and I'm going home, and where I live is not in the right part of town.
Mhm.
And my family is just struggling to make it. And I have this dream, and it doesn't quite fit with the reality that I'm living in. And I'm doing everything I possibly can not to let that dream die just because where I live is not very nurturing, you know, to uh to my dream. So you're right. It was very, very raw, very realistic. And it spoke to people at the times because a lot of movies were very glamorous. These were very realistic and a reflection of society at that time, which I believe is why so many people endeared themselves to it, or the film endeared itself to the viewers.
Absolutely. So, this is kind of and I have one more picture that I'm going to bring up before we close the show, because I know it's almost time. I can't believe the time went by so fast. It always goes by
It
so
always
fast.
does, yeah.
But I just want to show this one last picture of her, from, I believe this is probably on the set of Fame or around that time, when she was very, very young woman,
Hmm.
incredibly talented, singer, dancer, actor, Irene Cara. We will miss you. And,
Yes.
something, I hope that we get more things that have this type of depth to them when it comes to
Hmm.
entertainment, Lorena. I really miss seeing stuff like this. I sure hope we can get more investment in. It's hard to make musicals. Musicals are not the number one choice of studios to do. So if you can get into a musical, you're incredibly lucky. If you're a dancer and you're dancing in a movie, you're incredibly lucky. So
Hmm.
I do just want to acknowledge these performance arts. These performances that we got in Fame were spectacular, and we need to bring it back, because there are a lot of talented individuals out there, and we need to see more like this. So that's what I was going to say for that. And we're almost at the end of the program. It's almost the end.
I know time flies here.
Well, where can people find you?
Well, folks, you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, and of course, you can find me on YouTube, where I do various videos, live streams from different aspects of pop culture, including theme parks. So, you, of course, you can find me here on the Burnetwork on Monday nights at 6 p.m. for ladies of the PGS. And you can also find on my channel for Toxic Male Appreciation on Thursdays. And also, we do anime shows, anime viewing parties together, various live streams together. I do some on her channel as well. So that's where you can find me. And as always, I love being here on the show, and time just flies. It really does.
It really does. It's a pleasure having you here, Lorena. I enjoy it so much. And everybody in the chat, thank you as well. Tom Jr. Jackson, we were all goof people. Thank you for moderating as usual. Guys, you can find me on my channel, Positive Fandom too. So do subscribe to my channel and also subscribe to Lorena Creole's channel and subscribe to this channel here, the Burnetwork, home of the Burnetwork. We are all members of the Post-Geek Singularity here. This is Ladies of the PGS every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can also find me on Positive Fandom for my Sunday brunch on Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I do all the parlay in the fandom as well. Sometimes I'm on the 1/6 Scale Man Network, or sometimes I'm on Lorena Creole's channel, as well as Midnight's Edge. So please do find me there. I hope you all are well out there. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's such a pleasure to see you all here tonight. And for those of you out there, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always do remember to I can't even speak. To please be kind. Be kind, everybody. Good night.